you. Let's see. So I just started recording. What have we done? We've essentially done all of this. So we have our grades component where we're getting grades on mount, and now we're just rendering over them. We also moved our home and grades files into this pages component and changed our seeds file. So we have a lot of data now. Cool. This is still not rendering. Let me refresh this.
I think you're still console logging your grades instead of setting grades.
Oh yeah, okay. Good call there. So yeah, I need to set grades right here to res.data. See, it's already making it hard for me to develop without having some sort of indicator that like, is this loading or not? Like, is it okay? There it finally goes. There's all my stuff. We have lots of data. We could do lots of stuff with this data. We could sort it, filter it. So maybe we can get into that. But yeah, when I refresh this, it's kind of obnoxious that it's just blank for that long. I could do something like this in my render grades. I could say like if grades dot length equals 0, maybe return something. No grades. So at least know that render function was working. But yeah, or I could even say, I think this is a little misleading to say this doesn't mean that it's loading. Because what happens if I load my grades, we go do the Axios call and there's just no grades. So that would be that could be a potential bug. But that kind of might do it. So yeah, I want to do a spinner here. So, and I want to do like I want to actually say loading. So let's do a loading Boolean. And we've kind of done this, but let's make it a little nicer this time. So by default, I actually want this to be true because we're doing it on mount. No grades. So I am going to have this say no grades. And then I'm going to have this loading state. So what I want to do here is, once we're done loading, I can set loading to false here. I also want to set loading to false here. There's actually a finally block on this that will run whether or not it fails. So finally block runs whether or not. Like it runs regardless is what I should say. If successful or not. So whether it succeeds or fails, this is going to run.
What's the functional difference between putting that in a finally block and just putting it below the try catch block?
A good question. Let's see. I wonder if this will not wait. Like right there.
Yeah,
I think that would probably, that's actually, I can't think off the top of my head. Let me see. Well, let's get this set up and then let's kind of play around with that. Because this probably, yeah, I think this is going to work with what we want to do. There might, I don't know, there might be some specific stuff that we want to do inside of our code regardless. Yeah, let's just see if that, I need to go like look into that because that's a good question. Let's go and let's use this so we can actually kind of see what's going on here. So I'm going to do this really quick. I'm just even before this. So I'm in my function. I could try to do something like this. If loading, let's just return loading. Just going to do something really simple right now. So since this is before this return statement, it's not even going to return this grades header, which maybe I want, but we should at least now be able to see this. So if I refresh, it just says loading. And it succeeds, and then we get that. So yeah, that's what that set loading false there. If I throw that there, it's going to do the same thing. So yeah, Tom, I don't know what the difference is going to be.
I mean, it's not a big deal. I can look up some documentation later or something.
Cool. No, but that's a good question. It's like, why do we need the finally?
I mean, the fact that it exists means there's some sort of fringe case where it matters.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, what's there might be, because finally run, yeah, but why don't you just do it right here? It's like, what's the point? Can't. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably a scoping thing or something like that. Cool. So now we have our loading UI. I'm just going to do it inside of here just so we have that example, because that is a thing. Yeah, if we want a spinner, this is something we could probably, any ideas on how, like this is not maybe the best spinner. Any ideas on what to do to maybe get a better spinner?
Animate it.
And we could do our own. So yeah, we could do our own custom one and animate it. We got style components. Could totally do that.
Can you do like the dot, you know, when like the ellipses or whatever, but they like go over and over again, like it goes 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, and loops until it shows up, you know?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we could do any of those. Those are going to take time though, right? Or maybe not. I mean, we can just Google loaders. I mean, there's probably a ton of them.
I'm sure semantic has something.
Yeah, semantic. That's kind of what I was thinking, using semantic. There you go. Michaela, is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I was talking about.
Oh, Pac-Man. I like the Pac-Man one. So yeah, there's all these loaders. How do I like see the CSS behind them? See, they're already making me look for that. Yeah, there's also like semantic UI, React. since we are using this, we could look at their loader. So they have some loaders that we could use. So yeah, we have some options. Let's just for now use one of theirs. Or I don't know, we could do the dot, dot, dot.
We don't have to do the dot, dot, dot. It's the first thing I thought of.
Display include. Yeah, this is using a lot. Let's see. Let's try some other ones. Loader, CSS. Maybe that has. Because yeah, this could be a good practice in like just style components. Oh man. So do you want to do this? Try to like get this working in a styled component. One of these, or should we just use semantic? Man, let's just use semantic. This might take a second. Cool. But totally could, because that's like, that gives you all the HTML and CSS. And then you could go in and do that. So loaders are something like you would never try to do your own. Just go find something that someone else has done and use it. But we can use semantic. I don't know, maybe this one with like the files. So I can just come in here and copy some of this. You can choose your own if you want. Now there's quite a bit of code here. What do you think I should just plop this right here? Or what do you think I should do? What's going to be a good idea? Well, let's just first try this. Let's just get it working. But does anyone have a better idea of how to do this than what I'm doing?
Could slap it in its own component.
Yeah, I should go in its own component. But let's see if we can get this working, and then I'm going to do exactly that. Throw it in its own component. Image is not defined. I mean, I probably should have started off with there anyway. But. Image import. Okay. That's not pulling the image. That's why that's looking. So this is a relative path, right? This is going to be looking for like an images folder in my directory. So this is not going to like find that image. So it lives on, I want that, the one on the internet. So what I could do is, I wonder if I can like inspect this and find that like source. Yeah, right there. I need that full link, that HTTPS, to actually get that link. I'll select this out. Let's try that. If I refresh. That's also not the best because it has to like load that image. So there's a little bit of a lag, but it's working. There we go. There's our loader. That looks decent, right? Maybe I don't, maybe that image, maybe I don't like that image. Nope, I do. That screws that up. We don't have the segment. What does that look like? Screw it. I'm not, sorry, I'm like taking too much time on how this looks. I think this was fine. This is good enough. So there's our loader. But yeah, I want to throw this into a component. So let's come into our components and make a new file, loader.js. And maybe I'm going to call this like semantic loader, just so I know exactly what this is, because maybe you could go and create a couple different loaders. So now I know this is my semantic loader. Go remove all these imports from here. Export default. Semantic loader. Cool. So there's that. And then in my grades, and I think this is going to work. So I'm just going to slack this out right now. One second. Then in my grades component, I can go ahead and do that right here. Semantic loader. Refresh that, see if it's working. So I kind of like this component. And I think this could be a component I could reuse, not only in this app, but maybe in my starter project. So what I could also do is, we should probably move that starter project somewhere else than week 5, but I could cd into my starter project, open that up in code. And, I could also do something like, oh, hey, I kind of like this folder structure more where we have this pages folder, kind of organizing it that way. So like really, I'd want my things component in there, my home component in there. Because this starter project, kind of what I'm trying to show you, this can update. You can change this. You can add things to it as you see fit. So that did not automatically import those correctly. Pages. I might also want a new, I'm going to do a new one in here called components. Component demo. Because I'm going to start adding components to my starter project. And maybe I want a page where I can go see, what components I have and see what they look like, see how they work. Component. So let's go like copy a React component in the component demo. import the component demo. Call this path components. So yeah, now I can stop these and go ahead and run this. So I quit my skills project, went to my starter project. I'm starting that up because I made some changes. I need to change my navbar. So we have things. I mean, things should still, well, let's add the link to components. That components. So now my starter project has my home, it has that things, you know, since I have this working, I could delete that, but maybe you want that as a reference because your things component has that Axios call reference. And now I have this component page. And this is maybe where I can come in. I can take this semantic loader that I had and then throw that into here. And then for here, I can just go ahead and kind of demo off the components that I have. Cemention loader. Semantic. Oh, I'm just gonna leave that like that, whatever. Is that what I called it in this file? Cemention loader. Let's actually fix that, sorry. Let's be reasonable here. I use that in my grades. Spell that right. So if you spelled that right, you don't need to do that. Semantic loader, semantic loader, semantic loader, semantic loader. Oh my gosh, I spelled it wrong again. Dude, how come I can't spell semantic? Dude, how do you spell semantic? Is that right? Okay. Sorry, it doesn't look like a word. Semantic. Okay. So there we go. So now I can start collecting my components. So next time when I clone down this repo, I'm going to have this loader ready to go. And if you wanted to go figure out how to do like the ... loader, you could go create another loader. You could have like 10 loaders. And then they're just kind of in your starter project ready to go. So now I could do a in my, and then also like I reorganize my folder structure because maybe I think, hey, this is a little more cleaner to have like components that are meant to be reused between pages, and then pages that like really just go to my routes in my starter project. So then in my starter project, I could do a get add dot, get commit dash m. No, reorganized folders and loader, and then push that up. Why do I need to pull? Oh, I was changing my README. Okay. I was a little scared why it's making me pull, but yesterday I was changing in GitHub my README, which was the same as like doing commits. So I do need to pull that down. Let's go ahead and just quit out of this. Yeah, there's my README changes. That scared me for a second. Cool. So then I can like close out of that and do it. So we'll probably create some more components today that we'll want to add to our starter project. I'll probably do it at the end. But I'm kind of wanting to show you, you can change, I kind of want you to be changing your starter project and adding things to it. So there's that. It's not a better way to do this would to create our own package on npm with our components on there. And then we could push up to our package and then we could update. But I think for now, let's just keep it like this with your starter project. Sweet. So I'm going to go back and restart my skills project. You didn't have to do that. You don't need that on your starter project. Your starter project is yours. Yours doesn't have to match mine. You have it be your own, and you add the things you want to it. So there's our loader. It's taking forever. There we go. Now, there's going to be a lot, some more stuff we're going to want to add to our starter project. But let's go back to this grades. Now, how many times? Let's do one other thing. Let's do an error. Let's do an error handler. So let's do some state. Let's do some error state and set error. We're kind of doing some better error handling, and this is more better like UX stuff. So let's come and do some error stuff. Okay. Now error handling we can get pretty in depth with this, but let's just keep this simple for now and kind of also think about how we did the loader, how we're throwing this in another component, that could potentially be something we add to our starter project. But let's just kind of look at this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set error to null by defaults. Just kind of assume there's just not an error. And then what I would want to do, so let's remember, like, this is, I think this can be a little confusing. Like I set error to null here. Why would I do that?
So we kind of
You kind of cut off there.
stat. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we kind of like reset the error status to nothing when we try to grab our data again.
Yeah, this is kind of reset error, if there was one. I could do an if statement, like if error. Could do that, like if error. Set error. Could do that in an if statement. Or I could just not care and say, I don't care if there's an error or not, just set it to null. And then, yeah, so if there is an error, then we're going to catch it right here. Actually, I don't like having these two errors, even though this is a different, see how these are color coded differently? They're not the same. I'm going to call that one ERR. Okay, and then I don't need to alert error anymore. So let's create an error. Let's just kind of for now, like as we did this one, let's do a paragraph error. And I'm going to say if error, return error. How could I create an error? Let's just call this grades. Let's make this a 404. Just type in a bad URL here. So there it is. I refresh. It doesn't even need to do the call because it does do the call, but it doesn't load because it doesn't have that slow async or that slow query. So we get to our error. Cool. So that's not like the best error message. So once again, I could maybe look at something like semantic, or let's maybe just create our own little component. Or we could go, or the other thing we could use is we could look at semantic. I wonder if they have like a warning error, like a message. Cool. They actually have one. This is kind of what I'm looking for. Different colors. So I think that's a pretty good one right there. So let's grab this. I think this is a pretty good one. Let's just use this. But I'm also once again going to maybe throw this into my components. Let's call this semantic error. I think something that would be good practice for you, and maybe on Friday we'll spend some time doing this, is even if it looks the same or similar, maybe you create your own little like message component. And maybe I think tomorrow, maybe we can do that. Instead of using semantics, maybe we can kind of see how we could do something similar and create our own custom component. But for now, just for sake of time, I'm going to use theirs. So let's do const semantic error. return. And then I'm going to import this message component. And I'm going to make this a little specific. This is going to be a load error. Like this is really going to be for Axios calls. Maybe I want to not have their default message. I want to have my header. And then here, I want to maybe throw the error. So I'm going to pass these as props. Cool. So then I can come to my grades and I'll select this out. So you have it. Since I copied that from semantic. Now here I can use that component, semantic, no load error. So for my header, well, could say something like error occurred getting grades. And then for the error, I'm just going to pass down that state. Let's go back here. Where's my app? Home grades. Shouldn't that be throwing an error? Maybe I need to refresh this. Okay, so I'm getting this error. Objects are not valid as React children. And what that is, this error is a object and React doesn't know how to render that. Let's just change that to a string. Error occurred getting grades, and then there's my SDF. But I kind of want to see that error. So what I'm going to do, error, I'm going to keep that the same. But in my loader, or my semantic error, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this, I'm actually going to change this to a code block. I'm going to do JSON, because this error is going to be an object, and I want to stringify it because React can render a string. So I'm going to use this. This is just built into JavaScript. I'm going to take the JSON object and I'm going to turn it into a string. And cool. Now I get this error. And now I get this nice error. I mean, this is probably not a user-friendly error, but this is a developer-friendly error. Let's see if it works. So here's what I added there, line 7. Let's just change the error on here. Let's have this actually go to grades. And then I don't know, let's do like a Let's see, how do I just create an error? Let's see if it just catches this. No, I need to like, let's just do like a, see if it catches this like dot map, like a string dot map. I just want to have this cause an error. Inspect. Oh, it's still doing my. Oh. Okay. So it's not gonna like stringify that, but at least it caught that error and then it's like, you know, saying something went wrong. Cool. I could probably also like in my controller just to show you this. Let's say like an error did occur. So if I go to my, you don't need to do this, but if I go to my grades controller and like, I don't know, just come in here and render JSON. Comment that out so it doesn't actually do that Axios call. So let's say an error did occur for some reason. This is a status 422. The error is some Aereo. And then I go back to this, refresh this. There we go. Request fail status 422 name error. So I'm at least getting that that 422. Could probably go in and like figure out how to get like this error message, but I think this is good for now. It's kind of handling different errors. Yeah, let's see here. So going back, let me just, let's go back to my grades. Let's try it. Maybe error dot response might give us back something better. Yeah, error dot response, there's our message, some Aereo. So either way, I can kind of like decide what to pass to this error. And then some Aereo. I don't know if that's going to get my 404. Yeah. So I think error dot response is probably going to be a good one. Except for the 404. That's the error dot response for a 404 is like some HTML that's saying not found. Cool. But does that make sense? I'm kind of making this a little better of a reusable component. And it's giving me better error handling. Go ahead, get rid of this. And do that. So now in my grades.js, I have a spinner. I have some error handling. If I want, let's say I want to say, I want this grades to be here. Like I want this grades header to be here. Well, I could just move all of this logic up into this render grades function. So it says grades, now it says loading. It's going to wait for those to load before it tries to render them. There we go. And if I have an error, grades. I still said grades, but then there's my error. So I think this is probably the better way to do it, but depends on how you want it to happen. Questions on this? So we're going to take a break, but let's say like when we come back, we want to do the same thing for maybe we want to do like a users page. We want to go to a users page where we render all the users. We do an Axios call to get the users. We do all this stuff. And I want to have a loader. I want to have this error handling. Aren't we starting to see that there's going to be a lot of kind of duplicated code, right? Or this duplicated stuff that we've been doing time and time again, where and now we're going to have to do it for loading and error and our data. We do the use effect where we grab the data, and then we're going to want to like keep track of these loading state and error state and whatever this data state's going to be. Like, right, we're always going to have those three pieces, and we're going to do an axios.get, and we're going to do it on mount. So what we're going to do when we get back, we're going to create our own custom hook that we can reuse and clean up a lot of this code. So yeah, let's come back. Let's call it 11:50. Any questions on this? I'll push this up to GitHub right now.